we're here with the Talking Mess podcast. This is the solo cast, episode 3. But before we start, we want you to like, share, subscribe, and comment to get us more likes, more shares. So if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Today, my guest is Brandi. Brandi, me and you have known each other for quite some time, but I'm going to let you do a small introduction about yourself and where you're from. And she is a IFBB pro in wellness. So why don't you tell us a bit about yourself, Brandi?
Thank you very much, Brendan. I have been competing for 4 years now, since October 2022 to be exact. And that's really it about me. I mean, I came from a background of not doing any sort of sports. I never played a sport in high school, never did it in middle school or elementary school. So I don't come from some sport background. I kind of just fell into bodybuilding. It started with a weight loss journey for myself. And then I had a really good friend at the time that told me, hey, I'll coach you just to see if you can follow a plan. He took me under his belt. He was a powerlifter at the time. And he was like, hey, you should really compete because you're really good at listening. And he's like, but don't do it because it's hard. So
yeah, I mean, we all know that bodybuilding is definitely something that's different in moving into that kind of realm. So you said you didn't do any sports growing up. It was just, you just got into the gym and that's how everything worked out.
That's kind of just how it worked out. It's kind of the same old story of just being unhappy in my body and not being happy with the image in the mirror. And, you know, I just set out a goal to lose weight. So I got into the gym, not knowing how to train, not knowing what I was doing, but I was just, what I did know was that I had a certain goal that I wanted to reach.
Yeah. So what coaches and what kind of coaches have you worked with as far as around this area? For those of you who don't know, Brandi's around the Boston area. So she grew up around here as far as the bodybuilding realm goes. So who are your coaches and how long have you worked with them for? And who's your current coach going into your IFBB pro debut?
So that's a good one because I've had quite a few in 4 years, almost 4 years this year. I started with Justin Randall. He was the first one that introduced me as a true novice into the bodybuilding world. He got me my 2 first overalls, brought me into nationals for the first time for my first shot at my pro card. Got 3rd place. And then from there, he gratefully is going into judging, as we all know, around here in the Northeast and elsewhere, since he's pretty well known. So he was no longer taking clients. And then I actually moved over to Cameron Cheek. So then from Cameron Cheek, competed again at nationals, 3rd place once again. There was nothing wrong with Cameron Cheek. We just didn't vibe. And that kind of was just what it was.
That can happen. I mean, there's sometimes where you run it, people just think that, you stick with one coach and it is what it is. But like, unfortunately, you and I both know that if you're not vibing with a person and you're not on the same page, especially when it comes to food, lifestyle, enhancements, whatever the case may be, it could veer you off in a different direction. And I don't personally blame anyone if they just want to go from one coach to another, because in one realm, you're learning a lot of things from some of these top tier coaches that maybe the next coach that you're working with has all those lined up. So I think making sure that you have that right fit is so important. I don't look at like people, working with one coach and then going to another as a bad thing, because I see some people that are like, hey, I found my perfect coach in, the first shot. Guess what? That's not reality. And you and I both know that doesn't happen right out of the gate. So in our industry, you have to make sure that you not so much jump around, but make sure you find that right fit for you. That's very important.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I definitely certainly agree with that. I feel as though in order for us to be the best athlete, as you know, from bodybuilding yourself, everything has to click. So that didn't click. And I ended up getting another coach, and he was in Dubai, Xavier, and got my pro card with him. Again, nothing was overly bad about that relationship coach athlete at all. I have nothing bad to say. It just wasn't the fit for me. And now, lastly, I am with Andrew Barry. And truthfully, Brendan, he will probably be the only coach for me. And I can confidently say that just because the way he leads me is exactly what I need in every aspect.
And I think that's a very important factor. Just like I was saying a couple minutes ago, if you find, like I have that with Chris, I've been back and forth with some other people as well. And once you just find somebody that fits your niche, and I wouldn't say more so is like it, because I will say this as a fine line. People need to understand that coach and athlete comes before anything, and the relationship you develop with that person, if it turns into a friendship, perfectly fine. But you also like need to start off bodybuilding with a coach athlete relationship and earn that respect of having, say, your mentor or your coach as a closer friend, because some athletes try to take advantage of that, and it could turn in hindsight, it could be an ugly situation, because then they start to take advantage of situations such as missing check-ins and the accountability factor. Oh, don't worry about it. Like, I'm good friends with Brendan, or I'm good friends with Brandi. Like, I don't need to do that. Like, I can do it when I want to, and they'll give me an extension on it. First and foremost, you and I both know, like, yeah, Chris might be my friend, and Andrew might be your friend outside of the bodybuilding realm, but we treat them exactly how we would treat anyone else if we were working with them one-on-one.
For sure.
They need the proper feedback. You need to be checking in just like everyone else. Like, people think that there should be exceptions to the rules, but unfortunately there is an exception to the rules. So, and if we're not doing that, because both me and you are coaches, if we're not doing that from our realm, then we're calling the kettle black.
Right. No, for sure. And it's actually funny because I was friends with Andrew prior to him coaching me. And in 2024, I really wanted him to coach me, but I was actually pretty intimidated by him. I don't know why I was so intimidated by him. And I'm not going to lie, even this year, reaching out to him, I was still pretty intimidated by him, because I think it was just such a high level of respect. And not that I didn't respect my coaches prior to him the same way. It's just different when someone is closer to you, right? He maybe isn't that close of a friend where he knows all this information about me, but he's known me through the bodybuilding world, seeing me at shows, catching up, him and Rachel, but not who I am, right, as an athlete. And as an athlete, there's things that come out that show your vulnerability, right? So
1,000%.
Especially being a female with my hormones, like it's a roller coaster ride. So sometimes it was hard to digest at first, but I will tell you now, as well as we work together, we don't talk much. That's like another thing that I don't know if people realize. Not that we don't talk much, I don't reach out often. I sent my check-in, last week, and all he said was, everything looks good. We're just going to stick with it, hang tight. And then that was it. I didn't send a message back. Not that I don't think he deserved one, but like, I got it, like, we're good.
See, here's the thing too. And this is what drives me nuts, especially as a coach.
Yeah.
Some things, like if you're working with somebody and everything's vibing, everything's clicking, they're following the protocol, you don't have to change anything because they're progressing so well. Based upon everything that you and me and every other coach in this industry have seen, like through Instagram or social media, it's, you got to make sure you're changing things every 2 weeks. You got to change the workout plan, the diet, the cardio, like I'm bored, blah, blah, blah. Like, I hate to say it, but you and I both know bodybuilding is about repetition and doing the same repetitions over and over and over again. Now, I will say, like, I do the same movements almost every week. And I'm sure your regimen to that, like, but you're interchanging things that work for your body. But the thing is at the end of the day, we're still doing the same things over and over again. We're still eating the same foods over and over again. This isn't a sport where you change things up every other week or every week. If the changes are necessary, yeah, we make those changes. But if not, we don't need to. So people need to understand that as well.
No, for sure.
So me and you had gone back and forth, and I was like telling you, I was like, hold off on this, because me and you were chatting through IG, and there's so much good things that we can talk about, especially when it comes to the coaching realm of things. And I'm going to start off by talking about natural versus enhanced and the variations and the difference. Especially, I want your insight on a coaching perspective on natural versus enhanced, especially from the female side, because I know me and the boys, we talk open bodybuilding, but it's very rare that we have like a one-on-one guest that's from that female side. We've had Hunter Anderson on before, a couple other people too, but I want to get your, side of the coaching realm, especially like enhanced versus natural, and what it takes, and the hormones and all that good stuff. So why don't you fill us in on some of that coaching aspect?
I think so. You're asking me how I feel it is to coach natural versus non-natural athletes, or
the differences too. Yeah.
The differences. Honestly, coaching a natural athlete isn't so difficult to get them lean. And I was talking about this with someone else the other day, because okay, yes, you could definitely say that there's a reason for anabolics, PEDs. There's a reason we use them. There's a reason they're so heavily used, or certain compounds mixed with other ones. But sometimes as a female, and I've only coached females into shows, what I've noticed with even myself is that sometimes drugs can play a little backfire game, right? And cause a little inflammation, cause stress in the body, cause adverse side effects, whether it's water retention, whether it's mindset. And mindset is huge.
And that falls right into what I know Chris Tuttle likes to call a little bit of false weight. So it can give an appearance of you not looking the natural part of that, the enhancement side, because like you just said, your cortisols could be through the roof. There's water retention on you. The stress of the body it's astronomical, especially on a female side, and dealing with all the hormones that you have to deal with. And people don't realize, like, natural or enhancement with females, it's very difficult, especially their final 8 weeks, because they tend to lose their menstrual cycle. There's a big factor right there. And the hormones start to shift. Your mind starts playing games on you, and it can be very stressful.
For sure. I've definitely noticed that with my athletes individually. I mean, not for every case, of course. Definitely dependent on the person, their body, their lifestyle, how they handle stress, and mentally how they feel about the tasks they need to do to get done to get stage condition, right? Because you have to really enjoy it. And I'm sure you can agree with that. You have to really enjoy what you're doing, because sometimes it's going to suck. Sometimes you're not going to have energy. Sometimes you're not going to want to eat egg whites in the morning for breakfast, but you just got to eat your damn egg whites.
That's where a lot of people, I think, they make the mistake of assuming, especially, I've learned this, especially with first-time competitors, regardless of the situation, regardless if they're male or female, it's very difficult, and they don't understand exactly what goes into it until they get to that. And what I like to call, and I talk about this with everyone, Mike, Nate, everybody, like, I feel like that 8 to 12 week marker, where they're 8 to 12 weeks out, is that self-doubt stage. They start to doubt it. I don't look good. I'm not lean enough. They need to understand that there's big components into this, and that's where the mental games really start to play. So I feel like if you can get past that 8 to 12 week marker, like inside that, it usually ends up turning to be good. I mean, but I'll tell you, you definitely see, I'll tell you for a fact that I think shifting wise, as far as like hormones go and your estrogen, everything can tank, your HDL, it doesn't matter. Natural or enhanced, those are factors that are going to come into play. And we just had this conversation the other night on the podcast about running blood work during the course of a prep. Like I said, doesn't matter if you're natural or enhanced. That blood work is not going to be anywhere near what you think it's going to be. It's going to be in the tank. You're stressing your body. You're putting yourself through stress. You're putting yourself through low. If you're a natural competitor, it's lower fats, it's lower intake, it's higher cardio. This is the advantage of, yes, if you're taking in enhancements, they can help you and help the factor of you being able to eat more food. And then we throw in that, the factor of having retatrutide now. And it's a big factor in the bodybuilding game, male and female side. So the factors of all that falling into play, I mean, is an incredible amount of stress on your body, whether it's male or female. And what kind of factors do you think that you've seen come mostly big into play on the female end?
Honestly, just the mental aspect. Really, that's the biggest factor. I think that Brendan, see that as a whole overall through the community. It's just the mental aspect. And I don't think a lot of people talk. We do, right? But I think that it's kind of like, okay, yeah, we know that people don't feel great. And it's like, you really shouldn't feel like that per se. So we shouldn't just kind of mush it down and be like, yeah, that's just normal. So I think it's mostly the mental, because I think at least what I've experienced over the last 3.5 years now is that each time I competed, it was like a new level of unlocking a mental barrier, right? Whether that was self-doubt, whether it's not trusting the plan, whether it's second guessing, what's going on, how my body is responding, because at the end of the day, our bodies are going to respond differently every single time.
Oh, 1,000%. And I think that's, like we were just talking about, I think that comes into factor. The self-doubt is something that's a major factor in this industry. And you're going to go through your ups and downs through a 20-week prep, whether you're, like I said, whether you're male or female, it's going to happen. And at least the one thing that I've learned is, I know, like, there's a lot of coaches out there that are just about the money. And you and I both know that. Whether it comes to, like, my concern, and I'm pretty sure I'm not speaking for you, but I'm pretty sure you're on the same page with me. It's making sure my athletes are good on all levels.
Right.
Like if they're stressed, like if I'm having them fill out the intake and it's 1 to 10 on a stress factor and their stress is like at 8, all right, what's going on? Talk to me. Like, I can't fix anything unless you're talking to me. And sometimes us as coaches, we turn into therapists.
Right. For sure.
No, and it's like, I know a lot of coaches that'll just be like, oh, you're stressed. Yeah, get over it. Like, you're in a prep. We need to lock in. You need to focus better. Not getting down to the detail of what's going on. Like, I'm not sitting here telling everyone that, hey, hire Brandi or hire Brendan because they'll be your therapist. No, It doesn't work. Like, there's more that goes into it. But I think supporting your athletes and being there for them on a one-on-one level is so crucial and so important, especially this day and age, because, growing up, it was, you get a cut, rub some dirt on it, you're fine. I mean, our times have changed, unfortunately, and social media is a beast of it. And, we don't want to be transpired as bad people or bad coaches by saying that we don't want our athletes going around saying that we're a bad coach and that we don't care, whether it's an emotional aspect or a health aspect. I think that's super important. Do you agree with, being, supportive and having those people and having their back and supporting them on every aspect? I want to know more about, like, how your coaching style is.
So the way my coaching style is, if you asked a bunch of my girls, I am very, what's the best way to describe me? I am there for you as much as I'm there to tell you, remember what your goal was, right? It's very good cop, bad cop. I'm definitely there for my girls. I am not a huge baby person. I'll be totally honest with you. And I think the only reason why is because I think that sometimes people just they find an excuse, or they're dealing with something, or they're experiencing something, and it's like, okay, we have to kind of figure out what's the more important factor here, right? Is it bodybuilding, or is it something you need to tend to in your real life, right?
Yeah.
And if it's something you have to tend to in your real life, we probably shouldn't be hopping up into a prep, right? And if you're not
Agreed.
able to hit your goals for the day, then we shouldn't even be talking about a show this year or in the next couple of months. I need you to be able to follow everything to a T first, feel good, and everything be set just so that you feel good going into a prep. Not that everything's going to be perfect, but we don't want it to be high stress constantly, because at that point it's like
you're starting off right out of the gate. Yeah, you're starting off right out of the gate in a negative atmosphere.
right.
And not everything's going to fire if you're stressing your body even on top of that. So I agree with you on that, because I can't even tell you how many clients that I've had where they keep quiet, don't tell me about the stress, and then we're 4 or 5 weeks into a prep, and then they're like, I just lost my job. Or, they're going through a divorce or a separation or whatever the case may be. And these are outside factors that do matter. Like, they're
Right.
at the end of the day, yes, are we in a prep? Completely understandable. But people and athletes need to understand that you can't just jump into a prep to mediate something that's going wrong in your life.
Right.
Make sure that you're setting yourself up so that when you're getting into that prep, you have the most successful and it's as smooth as possible. Going into a prep in a stress factor is not something that you want to do. So
Right.
I'm pretty sure you have to, I'm pretty sure, just like I tell my athletes, you need to make sure that all your ducks are in a row before you're stepping into that realm and going into a prep.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So as far as off seasons go, now I know you're right now, I'm going to change the realm. We'll come back to coaching, but I know that you're currently in your off season right now, and I don't want to speak for you, but you're probably looking to make your pro debut sometime next year. And if that's the case, how's training going? How's the off season going right now? And what's on the horizon? What do you and Andrew have cooked up?
So as an athlete, I'll be so honest, I'm not an athlete that asks for the future plans. I think if I'm thinking too far in advance, I'm not focused on where I need to be right now and to maximize where I am in this very moment, right? So definitely competing in 2027. That's the plan. We already set out that plan once I got off stage and went into my reverse, just because I needed time to, one, be a human being after chasing a pro card and going at it and not enjoying every holiday to my best ability, right? Or is limited. So then off season has been going great. I feel better than I ever have before. I've never lost weight in an off season. And by losing weight, I just mean never have I tried to grow and lose weight while I'm trying to do it. So now this is the first time, Brenda, that I've experienced. I'm nervous for next check-in because I feel like I'm going to get fed more food. And it's not that I don't want to eat the more food. I'm just like, oh my God, this could get to a lot of food eventually, right? Which is a great thing. So it's definitely, it's interesting. It's fun. It's nothing like I've experienced before. And my body is like a sponge right now. I truly think I had surgery back in 2025 in September, and I went through the longest health phase that I've ever had. And I think that just set me up to just be a sponge.
And I think that's good that you took that time off and recouped your body, because for people don't know, so Brandi, I want you to just give me a quick rundown of what you've done over the last, I want you to talk about it. Where did you start and where you're at? We all know that you're a IFBB pro in wellness right now, but I want everyone to know who's watching this episode to know exactly how many shows you've done, what you've gone through. Did you feel there was a lot of stress and a lot of pressure on you to obtain that more individually or more from everyone else?
I truly think individually, I did 5 shows, and I think that I put a lot of pressure on myself. I really don't think that I felt a lot of pressure from everyone. I was very much, I'll be honest, a self-sabotager. Like behind the scenes, from what everyone knows and what they see, right? The internet, we all share the happy things in life. And not that I'm trying to hide who I am, because who you see is who I am. We're just not going to go and publicize, the things that we don't, that make us uncomfortable or that are really hard, because it's really hard to deal with. And it's kind of just something we keep within ourselves. So for sure, a self-sabotager. So it's definitely from myself as I've tried to move up the ladder and improve. And I will definitely say that, wow, holy crap, is rest underrated. And I learned that this past 6 months.
It's really underrated. And a lot of people don't realize that, especially like where you're doing more, like, because I know me and you have had conversations before, and the conversations are, I haven't touched my upper body and I don't even know how long. And it's wild because I've known you, like I said, I've known you for 4 years. And ever since I've known you, like you had done upper body in the first probably year and a half, and you trained it perfectly to be where you're at now, where it's I can do touch-ups here and there. I don't even really need to focus on my upper body. And it's more focused on glute, hamstrings, and quad dominant movements. And who are listening to this, people need to realize you don't grow unless you rest.
Amen.
This is a big factor. And another thing is too, like I know male and females, so I can't just, obviously I would never target just females, because I know males that have gone through this too. They have a problem with higher calorie intake, but then they want the look, if you get what I mean. Like they
Yes.
want to stay lean.
Yeah.
And it's all about what the look is right now. And if I'm not lean, I'm not going to get the followers, or I potentially won't get any sponsorships or anything like that. But if you're in this industry and you're serious about where you want to go, and I've talked to you several times, and I know that you're not stepping on that stage unless you feel like you can win. That's just the Brandi that I know and that I've known for the last 4 years. You're not somebody who just jumps on stage to jump on stage. You're coming for the win. And I think that is a mindset that is sorely underrated in our industry. And everyone just wants the glam, the glaze of, hey, look, I won a plastic trophy. Hey, I won this overall. And it's wildly overrated. And I think a lot of coaches that push on their athletes to compete every single year, you're not like, in my perspective, I'm not sure how you feel about Brandi, but I feel that you're really taking away from the potential of some of these athletes to actually grow with their potential. Like, I think that some people have the tendency, and if they look at this industry in a different realm and they want to, if they're just about competing and it being fun and a hobby for them, but if you're trying to make a living out of this and you have a major goal, like as winning a pro show or being at the Olympia one day, I think it's important that you take the time off, listen to your body, make sure that you're doing everything right, your health markers are in good shape, and that you can start pushing food so that you're growing in a proper manner. Yeah, you can do the small cuts, and we all do that in between some phases and scale the food back down. Maybe not so much as a cut, but more so as recouping the body and making sure it's healthy, because you just push food extremely high for 16 to 20 weeks. But let's not get it mistaken. If you're not pushing the food, you can't push the training as hard. And I'm sure you agree with that on those components.
Oh, for sure. And, being a female It's definitely, you see it all the time, you hear it. I'm sure men are uncomfortable. You guys get to heavy weights. I'm sure it's uncomfortable, right? It's harder to breathe. Going upstairs takes more exertion than you've ever experienced. I mean, you're
Putting on
tired all the
socks.
time, right? Yeah, right. So I feel like for a woman, it's hard when we get stage lean. You have the abs, you're cut, everyone's complimenting you all the time. And then it's time to grow. And we need body fat more, especially because of our hormones, right? Like that's scientifically, that's just how are supposed to be. And I think that a lot of people hyper focus on it, especially women in the industry and newbies. When I first started, I had a plan to compete, but I remember I never told Justin when I reached out to him for coaching. I was just like, hey, I want to be really good on stage. Like I want to get out there and I want to be, my exact first email was, I want to be a beast on stage. That was my only goal. It wasn't April after I spoke to him in October. It wasn't July. I had no intentions. So every time that I usually compete, I don't have a set time frame. I let whoever is driving the steering wheel tell me which exit we're taking, because it really allows me to just focus in this spot. And like, yeah, sometimes it's uncomfortable to grow, but I want to be better next time. So it's worth it, right? The short-term uncomfortableness is so worth it to see how you're able to level up and grow.
So do you take that same aspect with how you look at things for your particular off seasons or preps or anything like that? Do you take that same mentality and drag it over and use it with your clients as well?
So usually what I do with my clients is if someone reaches out to me, sometimes they have a time frame in mind. Sometimes someone in the early of the year will reach out to me and they had looked at the flyer and they saw shows in the fall. And usually how I go about it is I say, we can think about it, but I need to get you on your plan first. We need to see how you do. And then we can start talking about shows. I rarely ever, unless it is someone that is experienced, that's a little bit of a different story. We have a plan, right? So I have a fit model client, and she hit junior nats last year and she got 4th. So obviously for someone like that, we got our feedback, what we needed to do to bring to the next following year. But even to her, I said to her, hey, look, if we need to take even longer than the year, then we need to take even longer than the year, because you're going to be happier long term. So I want you to not focus on a timeline. I'll let you know the timeline. I'll let you know in advance. We'll have a conversation about it. We talk about what shows, if we did it again, we might hit, depending on where we are.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, and I've had this a lot on my end too. They'll come to you and they're like, hey, I want to do a show in 16 weeks. And you don't know their body. You don't know how they're going to react. There's certain foods that are in there. Cardio, you need to learn, can you push them? How does their body react to this? This is partially why I I'll more so try and push somebody to, unless, like you said, unless they're in a good spot, I'm not going to push somebody into doing a show right out of the gate. Give me 4 to 6 months so I know your body. That is the most important thing, and how it reacts to certain foods and cardio and stress. All those are big factors, and you can't get the best results out of your athletes or us as coaches, for that matter of a fact. We're not going to get the best results if we're not knowing you inside and out. And I always tell this to every athlete. Your first prep, no matter what, even if we've had that 4 to 6 months together, it is 100% a trial run to see how things work. So I see so many coaches, just like this goes back to what we were talking about earlier. I see so many athletes that it doesn't work out one time with a coach, and then all of a sudden they see you, bye. It doesn't work that way. Like,
right.
You have to be very good at what you do as a coach. Don't get me wrong. But in the same factor, you need to understand how they're going to be able to handle things, especially inside of that week. There's so many stress factors that go in even to that final week. They could look phenomenal. And then all of a sudden show week comes. the cortisols are going through the roof. You have to readjust things. And what I tend to find happens the most, especially in people's preps, they go away from what they've been doing the entire 20 weeks.
Right.
Oh, let's throw in a burger and fries right before the show. What are we doing here?
Right.
I mean, this is my outlook. I'm not sure how you feel on those certain aspects, but if you're eating chicken and rice or beef and rice or whatever the case may be, you're pulling back on that protein, you're hiring the carbs, you're more trying to use drier carbs so that we're not gaining a ton of water retention when we're stepping on stage. Those are all key factors. I think throwing an element of something that you haven't used the entire prep could be disastrous, especially when it comes to the being on stage portion.
Right. No, for sure. And just to, circle back on what you had said about people kind of jumping when something doesn't work right. We kind of see that in the bodybuilding world in regards to, a coach will put someone on stage and that person wins the show and you see a bunch of people flock to that person. I have never picked a coach because of that. That's just me speaking on my opinion. I don't see a coach do well in one division and then I flock to them just because sometimes, even though that person did so well with that person, does not necessarily mean they're going to be able to do well with you. And this translates back to what you said, because someone needs to learn your body. They have to learn how it works, how it reacts, how quick is it or how slow is it. And truth be told, I just feel like sometimes you don't click with someone. And so if you had that time frame beforehand to just work with the person, eat your meals, try your training, have conversations, do your feedback check-ins, you can see if you jive well, work well. Okay, this is someone that I can prep with. I've learned them. They've learned my body. We're going to be able to do this successfully. So just having that just makes it so much easier.
I think doing a trial run with anyone that you're working with is the most important thing, even from a coach's point of view, because like we're talking about, it gives us an opportunity to see whether or not you're really locked into doing this.
And if you like it.
Right.
I like it.
And I've told almost half my athletes that end up slipping up inside of like working with me. And I'm like, hey, we do this for 6 months and then we put you into a prep. And you can always use this tool, to counter with them if they're eating off plan or they're not getting their cardio in or things aren't as important as they are. Bottom line, both you and me are probably the same. We ain't going to put you on a prep if you can't handle getting all your meals in and prioritizing training and sleep and cardio. If you're missing those factors, guess what's going to happen? If we throw you into a prep, that 20 weeks, you're going to be missing a ton of stuff. People at your level don't miss anything. You're not missing your cardio. You're not missing your training. You're not missing your food. You're nailing all of this. And that's why you have progressed the way you have in the last 4 years that you've been in this sport.
For sure.
You've gone from the bottom and the top, and I've sat back and watched it firsthand. And people like that will get to the top because they execute everything perfectly. Now, this makes me want to transition into going into the prep, but coming off the prep in a proper reverse. And what I tend to see is, like I said, doesn't even matter if it's male or female. I think a lot of people tend to binge eat and go off plan, and they don't understand how important it is those first 6 to 8 weeks when you come off a show. For the guys, you need to stay within probably 10 to 15 pounds of your weight, stage weight. And for females, it's probably important that you stay anywhere between 8 to 10 pounds. How do you feel? And have you dealt with anyone that has come off a prep or a show and happened to binge eat and not nail the reverse properly? And how do you handle it?
Truthfully, I've only had one athlete that had a little bit of a tough time post-show. And it wasn't anything that was so severely extreme, but, we kind of had to have conversations about, what are you feeling? What's making this surface? Why are we doing this? There's something. And maybe it was when we first started to get her ready for her first show, she wasn't actually ready to compete for a bodybuilding show because she maybe did not realize how extreme it could be in a diet phase for weeks and on. And then you're still in a diet phase post show. Believe it or not, you're still in a diet. You're still dieting because as you're slowly bringing up calories when you can, you're still dieting. So I think it's hard. I think people firsthand, they expect, okay, I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to prep for 2018, how many weeks long. And then once the show is over, I'm just going to go right back to eating everything that I normally eat. Nope. That's never going to happen.
It's completely unrealistic.
It's so unrealistic, unfortunately. And so we just dealt with a lot of conversations, and she actually took a break. She didn't check in for 2 weeks. Now, some people would probably say, oh my God, she probably could have gone off the deep end. Yeah, maybe she could have. However, for her case-to-case basis, of course,
I think that's important.
No pressure. She had no pressure of checking in. She had no fear of, oh my God, I have to check in on this day and I'm up this many pounds, and having that fear that could then be exacerbating the binge eating even more. So she ended up taking a break. But besides that, all my girls, I haven't had anyone suffer from any type of really binge eating, and I don't have a huge roster. I've had a handful of girls, and it did surprise me how I didn't get that many that suffered from that.
And it's probably because you're prepping them right. There's refeeds, smaller refeeds in there, like whether it's once a week or every other week or whatever the case may be. But like you and I both know that when it comes to males, females, doesn't matter. Like some are going to have to suffer. They're going to have to do lots of cardio. And I ended up seeing a post, and I think it was by Dynamite, that what people don't understand, or no, it was actually by Jacoby. Jacoby put something up, and he's like, I don't understand why people think this way. And social media has gotten to everyone's brain, especially when it comes to bodybuilding, of, yeah, refeeds all the time. Yeah, my clients are just killing it during a prep, just doing steps. Like it's all smoke and mirrors. And that's just these particular coaches just trying to drive numbers more to them. But you need to be realistic, and I would rather have a coach tell me the truth and be honest with me. I don't know about you. I mean, but I think it's a big factor with being truthful to your clients. And like I just said, it's very different in person based, like you were just talking about, that not only people are going to get refeeds, not the same people are going to get can get away with only doing step count and not cardio. There's some people that are going to die on the cardio machine and do 2 hours, and they're going to have to friggin' starve on, like, if it's a guy, 1,400 calories. If it's a girl, they're under 1,000 calories, and it sucks. And that's the part of it, but that's how your body is responding to things. So unless it's responding in the proper way, this is how we have to coach, and everything's individually based. And the biggest factor, I don't know about you, and this is the question I'm going to ask you. I feel like a lot of people have gotten driven into the social media aspect of seeing, hey, this is what they do. Why am I not doing that? Do you get a lot of that with your clients that are brand new and come to you?
I don't get that actually, but I can definitely see how many people do get that, just because of what you said. That just set off a light bulb in my head, where you had stated like some people are going to have to suffer a little bit more. And again, that goes back to what we were saying about being ready to compete, right? So if you take the time when you're reaching out to a coach about competing, you set your body up, you prime it, maybe we can clean up the person, get them to a good place to grow, bring those calories up so that you don't have to kill yourself in prep. Now, don't get me wrong, prep is going to prep. It's going to suck. You're literally, I call it flirting with death. You're flirting with death.
It's the truth. People don't realize it.
So it's going to suck some days and it's going to hurt and it's not healthy whatsoever. So those are just the realities of it. If you don't like it, then people shouldn't do it. You don't have to do it. But if you are doing it, realize it. And that's just how it's going to be. So comparing what you're doing with someone else is just not, it's useless. It's not making you a better athlete. It's not getting you to your goals faster. It's just causing that little voice in your head to take over, and you're not going to trust your coach. So what are you doing behind your coach's back that now your coach doesn't know? And then they aren't learning your body, and then boom, nothing's working, you know?
Yeah, I see that a lot. And just like I'm going to piggyback off what you were just saying, like if you're working with somebody and all of a sudden they come to you, they come to you and you start working with them in your 6 weeks or 6 months out from starting a prep, my baseline is I'm going to get you on the leaner side, more of like probably a 12 to 14 week outlook, so that your body is going to respond to its best the final 8 weeks leading into a prep. So by the time we are 2 weeks out or 3 weeks out, male or female, does not matter. We can run food into the show and you're already conditioned enough.
Right.
I think that's where a lot of people make mistakes, and they're starting, some of these coaches that are inexperienced and are these IG coaches, they're starting their clients on 16 week preps. They're over cardioing them. They're over dieting them. Right. They're using enhancements up the ass and jeopardizing all kinds of health, whether it's a male or female, it doesn't matter. And they're just pushing those 3 factors, and that's not the healthiest and smartest way. Now, don't get it twisted, because we talked about this the other night. Bodybuilding is the most healthiest, unhealthiest sport you will ever freaking do. That's just the bottom line. So it's trying to take the healthiest approach and the best lined approach to lead to the most success when it comes to a show day.
Right. For sure.
So me and you had got into talking about training, and this is some stuff that I wanted to talk about too. And do you see that more people are using and subsidizing AI, ChatGPT, or you have some of these higher end coaches that are getting paid $3,000 to $5,000 for training regimens, and they're using them on pros, and all they're doing is just copying and pasting it and sending a cookie cutter program, and you're not seeing results even on a pro level. Do you think that's happening a lot in the industry, not just on a pro level, but even on an amateur level as well?
More than likely. So I'll be honest, Brendan, I feel that I don't stumble upon it as much as it probably does happen. I haven't seen it myself firsthand, and if I have, I haven't noticed it, at least if I was coached by anyone. And then in regards to people coming to me, if they did come from someone else, it didn't look like anything that maybe could have been, but I don't know, maybe it does. Usually to me, I'm just like, with someone's training split, I just really want to know what movements work for you, what don't. I don't really want to see what you were doing before unless there's something that you really like, but I just need to give you what I need to put you on right now, and that's what you're going to do. Because I think that we all just have different coaching styles, so I haven't really bumped into that, no.
So when it comes to your training style with you, and then do you move your kind of style to your athletes at all?
Yeah, so a lot of my styles in my athletes training splits actually, and more so I mean tempo and then certain reps depending on the person, right? So let's say this for an example. I have an athlete, and when I prep her, I have to be very specific with her. And I mean, I have to be very specific on how I want her to do cardio. So for her, I will adjust and I will give her a calorie goal to hit on the machine. because there's been often times where if I'm not specific enough with her heart range and a calorie goal, maybe she's not exerting naturally as much as I need her to on there. So me just having that control works. Whereas for someone else, I could easily just say, hey, you're going to do 30 minutes here. This is what you're going to do. So, and that goes back to how I function, and especially for glute training, at least, right? So I've been trying to bring up glutes on my ladies for a solid minute now. And thankfully it's working. And that is based on, because it's things that I've tried, I've done that have worked successfully for me. And I am going to have someone else give it a shot on their own. Now, will every single person do exactly every single movement that I do in my own training split? Absolutely not. I mean, there's no need for them to do that depending on what they are. But at the same time, when it comes to repetitive movements, they are going to do the best movements that I believe that have given me the best results in the same patterns that way. I just might program it differently depending on their body. Maybe they have really bad hip pain and they're not a really good hip hinger. So I'm going to stay away from hip hinging movements that would cause pain. So long term, we can still get the glute activation that we need and the growth, but we're not running into pains and aches.
I think that's very important. And I think what a lot of newer coaches or coaches that honestly just care less about their athletes and don't communicate as well with them, they just, like I said, they just throw cookie cutter plans at them and expect the best results. So if you're not communicating with your athletes, I don't think you're ever going to get the best out of them.
Right.
I think it's important on any realm to get to know your athletes to a point where you know what makes them tick, what particular exercises work best for them and the best results you can get out of it. And I'm pretty sure that you take that same training philosophy and apply it into your training as well. Now, don't get me wrong, because you were just talking about tempo. And I think it's very important that when you are lifting, that you are connecting 100% and feeling what you're doing. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some movements where you are working the muscle, but sometimes you might not feel that engagement as much as if you were doing something else.
Right.
Something might fire more than others. Do you feel like some clients come to you with that problem? Like, hey, I can see in a video that everything is working, but I don't feel it as much. And what's your response usually to them?
So usually when I do that, when I get a client that has any kind of issue like such, sometimes I will say, let's say it's an RDL, and say I had given them a Smith RDL, and it's not a single leg. It's just, obviously it's on a Smith. So they're using both. They're not feeling it. They're not getting any eye activation. I will check the video. If everything looks good and they're still not feeling it after a certain amount of weeks, I will start to say, hey, look, why don't you try a different variation? And I almost give that freedom in the sense of, if you know a certain movement that you've seen or that you think you'd like if you went into the gym and you saw someone doing a single leg dumbbell RDL and you've been dying to try it, go ahead and try it. Maybe you actually do feel it better with a Smith machine with a dumbbell over a Smith machine. And maybe that's what we need to have in your plan. I'm very much like that as an athlete myself. I've always been given plans by coaches, and sometimes certain things just don't work out. And every now and then I have a day where it's just a free for all for me. If I'm training glutes that day, I do exactly every movement I want to do. And sometimes I try something that I've been thinking about trying in my head, or I want to include into a client's training split. So I'm like, let me give this a shot every one of my free-for-all days so I can see how it feels, see how it works. And then I can introduce it to someone else and teach them how to nail it. But I think just sometimes as athletes, it's okay to go into the gym and have a day where your coach told you to train up your body. If you're not in prep, right? I'm talking about off season and growing and learning, but have a day where if your coach says, yeah, this is your upper body day, you're going in to hit upper body. It's okay if you don't do your coach's training split to the T on that day. But as long as you're getting the right motions and activations and getting a good workout. Now, if you're lollygagging, then yeah, don't do that. But
yeah, as long as you're targeting the same muscles, I think it's irrelevant. And it's so important for athletes to understand that, yes, this is the plan that we gave you. But example, like I give some of my athletes the option of doing the pendulum or a hack squat.
yes,
What's going to work better for you? You tell me.
Right.
I will put it in there. I'll give you that option. So that way you're like, hey, 1 week I'll do hack squats. 1 week I'll do pendulum. Sometimes it helps them on a mental aspect, especially if they're brand new to the sport, where me and you, we could do the same things over and over again and it doesn't bore us. Like we get excited, we get under that weight and we lock in and we're like, let's go. And we know what works for us. And one thing that I always tell my clients too is everything that I've given you on a plan, including like a burnout on somersault squats with like elevated heels. Yeah, I might give that to all my girls, but guess what? I make sure I'm doing these movements too, because I want to know how it feels. I'm not just going to hand out a plan or hand out exercises for them to execute in the gym if I think it's bullshit.
Right.
Does that make sense to you?
Yes, that makes 100% sense, because do you know how many of my girls I have doing RDLs? I mean, there's not really many different ways I can program an RDL. Like you're all going to do an RDL for the most part. You're all going to do an RDL. I'm going to
do it on a barbell. You can do it on a Smith
like,
machine. You can do it with dumbbells. There's so many different variations, and it's important to make sure, as long as you're targeting the muscles that we're trying to target, experiment, use it. Like you're in a prep, probably a different story. Start experimenting in that off season, or like when you're reversing and you're like less like you're draining things, you're pulling things back, you're getting in that health phase. There's a good time to start like incorporating new things that who knows that might work for you.
Yep.
Now I want to go into, you're one of the best posers I've seen as far as wellness goes, and you nail everything to a T. And all my females I try to send your way just because of how thorough and detailed you are and how much you get out of these girls. So why don't you tell me a little bit about how much you've practiced posing over the last 4 years, how crucial it is, and what you implement and make sure that your girls know.
Yeah, so practicing posing happens every single day. I wouldn't say in an off season it happens for long periods every single day, but I will hold my shots just for conditioning purposes to make sure that I can hold everything tight and keep my core in a really good spot. Obviously, vacuums are always programmed in, and I translate that all to my girls that I help. When I first meet someone, we go over, what their plans are, what's the goal. I look at their physique, what we need to change on their physique, what can improve their physique, and I actually give them homework. So that homework looks like stretching homework. Maybe this female client of mine, her hips are tight. Okay, give these a shot. Do them so that you're able to hit your shots the best that you possibly can, whether it's a yoga wheel that I have them introduce, whether it's a waist trainer and vacuums I tell them to do on a daily, right? So
it's underrated.
It's so underrated. And every single one of my girls gets homework. And you know what? I can tell when they all do their homework, because every single time they send a check-in with me, because oftentimes I'll let them know, hey, whatever day you have a check-in with your coach, send me those photos just so I can see how you're posing, if it's progressing. I also say, if you never reach out to me, I'm not texting you saying, hey, how's your posing going? I leave my phone open. It's part of my fee, which is not a high fee. And I'm like, you can send me a picture any day of the week and I will give you feedback right on that picture. So I just try to make it as convenient as possible. And I also just want them to feel their best. Truly, Brendan, I just want them to feel their best. However that looks for them, I need them to feel their best, because if your athlete is confident, they're going to do better. They're going to pose better. They're going to hold their shots better. And if I can give them cues that stick, they're going to feel so much better and so much more comfortable when they're hitting their shots.
And let me tell you something, and this falls on male, female, doesn't even matter. If you can have the best physique in the world, but if you don't know how to present it, guess what? You're going to get exposed, especially, I mean, you might not get as exposed on a regional aspect, but you're going to nationals and you're posing as trash, you're going to get exposed. And that could be the difference between you being in the first call out or the last call out. You can have the most amazing physique, but if you're not posing properly, you can see yourself in that last call out. I've seen it plenty of times.
Right. No, yeah, because you're not portraying your physique to the best of its ability, right? That's what posing is we're trying to present our best look. And if you can't present our best look, how do we expect to look our best on stage? It's all about illusions, right? People don't realize that either. So a lot of the times with my girls, certain hand movements that we play with, they know, and you can ask most of them, is I'm like, we're going to do this because we're going to hide the midsection so that you can tighten it up and get right into your front shot. So that's important, illusion, right? We're hiding.
That's important because a lot of people need to remember that everyone has a weakness, no matter what.
For sure.
It does not matter. So the key is in posing is hiding your weaknesses and emphasizing your strengths, especially when it comes to posing. I think you do that very well. And I think you do that very well with your clients as well.
I appreciate that.
And being as detailed as possible with you, like the way you've been as detailed as possible with yourself and your clients is a testament to what you've put on stage yourself and all your clients. So I really appreciate you taking the time out today to sit down with me and do this one-on-one podcast. Do you want to plug anything?
No, I don't think so. I just want to say thanks for having me on.
Yep. So what we're going to do is we're going to have all Brandi's information and her IG attached to this podcast. So if you want to message her and contact her directly for coaching, for plans or anything like that, or posing, you can reach out to Brandi. We will put the link in the bio. And this is episode 3 of the solo cast of Talking Mess. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and comment and ring the bell. Thanks, Brandi. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Brendan.